Yeah, I mean, okay. I mean, this could be obviously this is just my perception standing on the stage, and like I'm friends with Chappelle and with Chris, and I've known them for a long time, especially Dave, and we were just like hanging out beforehand, and it's like, well, it would be like totally bizarre if like I came on stage, and they're like, yeah, that's cool, let's do it, and so that was I really started to go to the show or even knew about the show like a few hours beforehand, so then it was just like standing there ad hoc, and it was just it's like an interesting situation. Obviously, I mean, it's just like hanging out beforehand, especially as viewed by those who live in San Francisco.
Mhm.
And so I wouldn't expect my fan club to be 100%, even at a Chappelle show. So, um, so then I think there's like an interesting sort of group dynamic thing that happens where if like one person starts booing, it sort of encourages others to boo,
Yeah.
and and then you get sort of like this weird group dynamic happening. The same thing happens on Twitter, it just with text. So, but I think in retrospect, I should have encouraged the booing and said uh, like, come on, guys, you call that a boo? Please, try harder. Boo, give me it's all together now. Boo, come on, you can do it. You can do
Boo.
it. That's a feeble boo. Come on, give us a good belly boo. From the bellow a boo.
Yeah.
I think
They should
everyone's
have,
cheering that
level
is
fun with
in
it, I
jail
think.
right now,
It's
though.
like boo, boo, boo,
I
boo,
wanted
boo,
to
boo,
ask you
boo.
more about that.
Anyway, yeah, SBF definitely needs an adult timeout in the big house, as I said. It's like, come on, man. It's like there are people in prison for like stealing a car for like a $5,000 car, and they're in prison. That's if
Yeah.
someone's like runs off with like billions of dollars, there's like they should do some time. It's not right that others who steal smaller things should be in prison and they're not. I don't think we need to have the guy in prison for life, but he should,
He probably will be.
yeah, I doubt it.
Yeah, maybe not. I don't know.
I doubt it. I mean, but you know, but it should obviously it would be an outrage if there was no punishment. And so like some number of years of you know in being stuck in a all expenses paid federal vacation. And look on the bright side. And and then it's whatever pays penalty to society. Actually, genuinely be sorry, and then they let it. Then he can rejoin society.
I
I
think
guess
he's going to feel pretty bad because he won't be able to play any League of Legends while in prison, and that seems to be his number
He
one
sucks
hobby.
at it anyway.
He does suck at it. Yeah.
Did you see Elon? Did you see the narrative on TV by a few high profile individuals that were supportive of Sam in some ways? Is Sam just a really good manipulator with his interviews? Do you think there's some truth? Not sure if you've heard his recent interviews. Could it be a mistake, or just is his bullshit meter went off again?
Listen, I don't know. No matter how you cut it, the dude has not been honest with people's money and stole them a bunch of money. Like, this is no other way to interpret that. Like, obviously. So, there's got to be some appropriate punishment here. That is, I don't think I actually don't think it should be like life in prison or whatever, but it shouldn't be nothing. I'm not the judge, but like 5 years to 10 years, something.
Maybe. Might be too little compared to Bernie Madoff, right? He got 150 years.
Yeah, I think Bernie Madoff, they're basically saying like this guy's, unless he is Methuselah, he's not gonna, the actual number of years doesn't matter that much because he's pretty old. So SBF's not that old, so he could actually spend 50 years in prison.
Yeah,
but should he spend 50 years in prison? Probably that's too much. I'm not afraid. I'm not.
It
the
seems
judge
to me
here,
he's very young, right? I mean, he should have a chance to make mistakes, maybe.
Unless he. Yeah, I mean, if I'm the judge, I would say like 5 years with good behavior. I'm not the who am I? I'm not the judge. 10 years if you're not. 10 years with bad behavior. Like 5 years if you do your best to actually get the money back. and aren't a phony asshole about it, and then 10 years if you hide the money, or longer if you actually hide the money.
Doesn't that feel too lenient, Elon? Like if it was only 5 years, I would go attempt it. Like not actually, but like you know what I'm saying.
Well, like I said, I'm not the judge here. I'm like what I know. It's the best case. It shouldn't be less than that. And but probably not life either. Like it's like serious punishment, but give the guy some chance of repentance and a comeback.
So I have a question, and this one's from Kristen Ruby. I think you tweeted at her the other day when she was getting some inside leaks from some engineer at Twitter. She's asking, and I'm asking this too, has the AI been retrained? Because right now, I mean, based on the leaks, we have all this information that was basically automatically censoring people through the algorithm. And since you've taken over, have you guys like retrained it so it's not so censorious?
We have made some changes to the algorithm, but not. I mean, they're relatively subtle. I think my instructions to the team is like just show people interesting stuff, and that the right metric I think to focus on is maximize the number of unregretted user minutes. So, and like if you're going to focus on any metric, I think that's the right one. Because so like a frequent criticism I hear of TikTok is that I spent like 2 hours on TikTok, but I regret it, and so we don't want that, So if you have unregretted user minutes, that's it can be a little nebulous to figure that out, but that's I think the right thing to aspire to. And unregretted user minutes are where you learned things, you were entertained, it was funny. You're not going to regret those minutes,
Yeah, absolutely.
I see your hand up, Eric. Eric, you got to unmute. Otherwise, we'll go to Brian. Brian, go ahead.
Yeah, hey Elon. I was just wondering, is there a possibility that in the future you could decentralize the database of Twitter, or at least open it up so others could build upon it? Like, I feel that it could maybe be a solution to the whole censorship debate. If like Twitter was you ban or block somebody on their front end, another front end like brianstwitter.com could then tie into the database and bring that content up at my own risk.
Maybe. I don't know. There are various like other ways to view Twitter besides the Twitter client. But I'm like open to a lot of different ideas to evolve Twitter over time. The sort of the short term actions have obviously been just like let's just get the company to financially healthy position, especially given that like we're headed into a recession and advertising will be disproportionately affected, especially advertising where you can't make a clear ROI argument. And like weirdly, this is gonna blow your mind. Twitter for the longest time was really had the advertising engine was maximizing irrelevance. That will actually resonate with you if you have noticed that for most long-time Twitter users have never bought a product ever on Twitter. And you have to say like, well, doesn't that seem a little strange? Because why wouldn't you have accidentally bought a product on Twitter? It's because the advertising has been maximizing irrelevance. So why would it maximize relevance? Because a lot of the ads traditionally at Twitter were sold on a cost per impression basis, and if you do that, you actually don't want people to dwell on or click into an ad because it will reduce the total number of impressions. So you actually want the ads to be as irrelevant as possible, so that you get the most number of in quotes impressions. And roughly 25% of Twitter's entire compute budget is spent on maximizing irrelevance, or at least it was until a few weeks ago, where we started to turn the ship in that regard significantly. So you might actually in the last week or two possibly have bought or even thought about buying a product from an ad that you saw on Twitter. So it took me a while to actually even understand this, and because there was like head exploding emoji, I cannot friggin' believe that we would spend 25% of the compute budget on. It's like roughly $130 30,000 servers, maximizing your relevance. But it makes total sense if you think about your Twitter usage, because I bet most people here on this call have never bought anything on Twitter, or if they did, it was only in recent weeks. And that's why, because it was actually very good at making sure that the ad was not relevant.
Wow.
The sheer amount of Mike Judge comedy material that we have is insane. In fact, so Mike Judge is a friend of mine, and he lives just outside Austin.
I love
And
his films.
yeah, he is awesome. So I like texted Mike and said, "Hey, Mike, we got some epic material for some new show if you want to do it." And so hopefully Mike Judge comes by Twitter. He said he might come by like next month or something. So that'd be cool.
Make a series out of it.
Yeah, like honestly, we've got enough material for like mini seasons here.
Running a social media company from the ground up, from the Jack days.
Yeah,
I just love that the media has to come here just to get their talking points. It's amazing. And that you keep coming to spaces, so they have to come here rather than you going to the media. It's perfect.
Our spaces. I love it. Thanks, Elon. You're the best.
Yeah, you're welcome. It's quite entertaining. Arguably the worst thing you can make is to be boring. That's
you do a good job at not being boring.
Yeah,
I will ask you.
Problematic nowadays.
I'm really knocking it out of the park at not being boring.
I've got a tough question for you. What would you say is your biggest concern, if there is one, on your current strategy with Twitter, on the free speech strategy? Is it? My guess will be advertisers.
Yeah, we did have some advertisers pause because they're like, a lot of them are kind of conservative and they're like worried about because for a lot of advertisers they're like basing their decisions off what they read in the press as opposed to what is the platform actually doing,
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why I was like, okay. So I've had a lot of calls with the big advertisers and to like, look, you should just base your opinion on Twitter of what you see on Twitter, not what you read in the newspaper. And in some ways, Twitter and the newspapers are competing because the newspapers competing, or on the mainstream media is competing for your attention. Twitter's competing for your attention. So there's an attention competition here. So you got to be like when you're reading in the media, other media, you're actually reading. Think about it like a competitor's opinion of Twitter, and then you're like, oh, okay, maybe that's not true.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I said they should judge it by their actual experience on Twitter. And I think actual experience on Twitter is that things have improved dramatically. That's my observation. And even in the last
positive. It's so much more positive nowadays. Like people are
Yeah.
actually having fun. They're joining spaces. I've seen so many spaces prop up, and it's just people having chats about nothing, and it's fine, right? Like they love
Yeah.
having chats. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Some people would take themselves too seriously. They get knickers in a knot type of thing. And it's like, but and then they do that on Twitter and they like go on a tirade and whatever, which is fine. Do it on Twitter. That's cool.
Increases user
I
engagement.
love it when people complain about Twitter on Twitter.
Yeah, they're not doing it on Mastodon or whatever site they're going to. It's
Yeah,
on Twitter.
because it's too boring because no one's listening.
Yeah, just screaming into the void.
Yeah, screaming into the void. Like just go into an empty room and complain. The complainers have to have somebody. They have to complain to someone.
Yeah,
There's the irony in them tweeting about leaving Twitter. Like, do they not see the irony?
No,
yeah, apparently not.
they don't. So I actually have a super good question from Kristen. It's a follow-up to the last one. She asked regarding the data she's reviewing, that was leaked by a former person at Twitter. I don't think they work there anymore. It shows, it showed clear bias in the AI towards conservatives. How can you ensure that the AI won't be used in this way moving forward, like for political, for censoring political speech? And based on the data that was leaked, do you believe that political bias existed regarding how Twitter was monitored, how it monitored political misinformation? So that's like two questions, I guess.
Well, first of all, Twitter's AI is extremely primitive, so I wouldn't read too much into it.
Okay.
I think we will improve AI. Oh my God, this is not really a word we should be using for the Twitter algorithm. Okay, that's not the case. it's really a very, very simple ML that Twitter is using. If I compare it to say like Tesla Autopilot, oh my god, it's like orders of magnitude simpler. So
Mhm.
we'll improve that a lot over time. And like I said, our goal is going to be maximize undergraded user minutes. So you're like maximally informed and entertained. And it'll be good to expose people to different points of view. So you don't just. I mean, hopefully people are open to that or become more open to that over time. It's like at least listen to the arguments from the other side and don't just demonize them and assume that everything they say is just evil.
Mhm.
I think people should be open to having their mind changed once in a while, and or at least understanding those they oppose better. What's the harm in that? At least understanding those with different viewpoints. That seems like a good thing. And you can still disagree with them afterwards, but at least you know where they're coming from. But obviously, historically, I'm just stating anyone who was a casual observer of Twitter, that Twitter was extremely heavily biased towards the left.
Yep.
The Twitter wasn't just drinking the Kool-Aid; it was swimming in the Kool-Aid.
It was
Okay.
pumping out the water. That
It was like
you know.
it's like asking the fish like, hey, do you see water? Like what water? Like you're in it, man. it's all water.
In a similar vein, Sebastian Gorka here, Mr. Musk. It's been reported that you want to turn Twitter into like a super app like WeChat. Would you address concerns of those who say that that's very exciting, but to prevent that abuse in a similar vein we've seen in China, especially if you're not running Twitter, what do you say to those who worry that could be abused?
Well, I mean that's like honestly a high class problem because we've got a long way to go before we're at anywhere like that. But I do think the succession problems are a real issue because it matters who's running the place, um, and but I can say like okay, like the things I can only do the things that are within my control. Like I'm trying to like what set of actions can I do that are maximally useful, and that'll be to make Twitter more and more useful, more and more entertaining. Doing the dead nuts obvious stuff like adding long form video, monetization for creators.
Yes, please.
Yeah, it's a no brainer. The stuff's like no brainer moves.
Are you working with anyone on this? Like any big YouTubers are contributing? I mean, I'm sure they have a lot of ideas.
I mean, the key is I've just got to get the engine of engineering at Twitter working.
Mhm.
So because you can have a million good ideas, but if you can't implement them from a software standpoint, it doesn't matter.
Right.
So it's like I said, most of the stuff that needs to be done is extremely obvious, and I think frankly like a 12-year-old could tell you what needs to happen. It's not like you don't need Einstein here.
No.
But we need to actually have be able to evolve the software rapidly so that good ideas can actually be implemented. And the software stack at Twitter is a Django pile of insanity.
Mhm.
If anyone has actually been exposed to it, it's like holy smokes. This is not an easy thing to evolve. That's why simple features take a long time.
Is this something that you would consider, crowdsourcing by opening up the API?
No, it's not about open. We've got to fix the fundamental core stack.
Oh, okay. The basic
And
stuff. Yeah.
yeah, like there's a. I won't bore everyone. In fact, that
Go
reminds me.
ahead.
I've got a sorry Tesla. Speaking of Tesla, I have a Tesla meeting that I'm late for. I have to step off.
Oh boy.
I'll ask you
can I
before
jump in, Elon?
before you start. Elon, I have one last question. Actually, two quick questions. First, about your White Rabbit tweet. A lot of people are DMing me about this. I haven't seen it, so I'm not sure what it's about. And then the second one, which I always, yeah. So that's the first one, and then the second one should be a very easy one. We're doing a COVID
Elon,
space,
is it possible
getting a lot
to
of.
get a question in about Tesla because I'm very concerned as an investor.
Guys, he's got to go.
We gotta go. Eric, Elon jumps in all the time. Eric, I promise you, I'll invite you next time he's in. Elon, if I bring Fauci to the space, we're talking to his team, we're getting a whole bunch of doctors. If I do, shit, he dropped out. Fuck.
He did.
I wanted to ask him.
He
Yeah, I
has
wanted
a
to ask him.
business
I wanted to ask
call.
if he'll,
He had
if he'll,
to
yeah.
he already left at that point. Yeah. You did,
I'll ask. I wanted to ask him about if we bring in Fauci, if we can get him to come on. I'll DM him
I'm
about
sure he'll
this.
say yes.
For anyone listening, for
I don't
anyone,
think Fauci
just
will
quickly,
be,
Ian,
Fauci probably
quick,
won't join.
Ian, 2 seconds,
Ian,
Ian. For anyone
everyone.
listening, hold on, guys, hold on, 2 seconds. Ian, for everyone listening, pinned tweet on my profile is if you want to join the COVID space. I'll try to get Elon in as well. We're going to try to get Fauci, not in that one, but in a future one. But if you go to pinned tweet on my profile, I'll pin it above as well. You could get notified for that space. Should be a slippery slope, really, really tough one. That was fucking cool. Getting Mark
That
and
was fucking
Elon in the
awesome.
same space.
Yeah.
What's your takeaway? You know, you've been on almost every space. You've been on the last space with me and Elon. What's your take on this one, Ian?
Fantastic. I mean, he was very grounded, very based, just answering questions. I mean, it's chill, right? It's chill. That's what these spaces are for. It's not like, like a lot of people are like terrified, like, oh my God, you only get to speak to him once. No, I mean, it is very clear that he intends to use these spaces quite often. This is not the only space he's ever joined. And it's good to have someone who cares so much about his platform that he is like dedicating time to speak to people about the issues that affect this platform, right? I mean, with Jack, I mean, no one could get a response out of Jack at any point in time, right? It's only now that even Jack is like responding to people, which is cool. Like, good for Jack. I mean, I'm looking forward to seeing his next projects, and I hope that he follows in Elon's footsteps and like encourages the community to join in and have these conversations. If anything, every like Mark said, right? Every tech CEO is looking at Elon right now and they're seeing, is the strategy working? And I think so. Yeah, it is working.
And I love Mark's discussion as well, and his support of Elon's strategy and how he said other social platforms. I don't know if he said that word, but other executives and other players, big players in the space, other executives are watching this. I'm going to call it experiment by Elon, the free speech experiment.
And as I pointed out, like Mark Zuckerberg said at the New York Times book event thing, that he was watching it. He's watching Elon closely. So I mean, they're quite open about it.
He said that. Yeah. He said that openly, Mark.
He said that openly,
Mark,
quite openly.
I see Mark as a complete opposite, and he gets a lot. Like I don't, obviously I'm indifferent about everyone, but sure. Mark gets a lot of hate for various reasons. But gets a lot of hate. I think one of the reasons is he's very secretive, very private, sure. and not as relatable. Yeah, Elon is on the completely opposite spectrum, and it's just such an interesting dichotomy. And we're seeing that Elon's strategy of being very approachable, jumping to a space, speaking his mind, could backfire at times, but the pros significantly outweigh the cons. And he's kind of practicing what he preaches through free speech.
Elon. Right, don't bet against Elon, right? I mean, he has a plan. I mean, I know it sounds kind of silly, like a bit fanboyish thing. He has a plan, but I mean, look at his track record, right? PayPal, and then Tesla, and then SpaceX.
I was even without the track record, I was critical of Elon's acquisition. I'm like, I wasn't optimistic. I was not even indifferent. I was more, I'm like, it could be troublesome. And then when I saw his aggressive move to free speech, I'm like, ideologically, I support it, but strategically, it just looks scary, and I don't know how he gets the balls to do it.
Oh yeah, it takes tremendous balls to do it. I mean,
it's insane.
Yeah, it looks scary, but in the long term, it does make a lot of sense. I mean, his goal, and this is my opinion, right? But he has stated this quite openly. Like, his goal for his vision for like humanity and the future that it offers requires a free speech platform. And the way that Twitter was going, the way it was controlling speech, and let's be honest here. I mean, Twitter may not be the largest platform, but it is the most influential platform. This is where all the journalists are. This is where all the politicians are. Things happen on Twitter before they're
Ian, we had, just to give you two examples. First, we just had Mark Andreessen Horowitz, and Elon just come on and just chat to us in a space live, and Elon just
a new story. Right? Multiple news stories. Yeah.
Man, like, where else can you find this? That's the beauty about spaces. Nowhere. And then the way we break news. You remember when we did the FTX? I think you said you were in some of these spaces.
Yep.
The journalists were in our space, and then we see the reports come out by Bloomberg. We've got so many examples. Mm-hmm. After we break them in the space, like the block story, how FTX funded the block. Sam Alameda gave money to the CEO of the block. That news broke 4 days ago. If people were in our space and they connected with one of the whistleblowers, they knew about this months ago, and it was in the data room. We were talking about this yesterday, I think. So mm-hmm. I know Elon called it, I think it was Elon or someone called it citizen journalism. It's
Yeah, it was Elon. Yeah, told it that.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, when he first jumped into the space, it's actually like I thought it was a cool term, but I'm like, yeah, I don't know how true that is.
He
But
didn't
it
coin
is.
it though. But it is a term. Yeah, it's a good
Yeah,
term,
it is.
and he's
No,
popularizing
yeah.
it. He's 100% popularizing it.
And it's working. Like, not only is it a cool, sexy term, it's genuinely working. And more, I go through the audience all the times.
Yep.
Every single outlet, I've seen it in the audience at least once. And the top outlets from BBC to Reuters, they talk to us all the time. Yesterday, Washington Post, New York Times all the time, Fox are here all the time. They're always here, and I see the reports going out right after we talk about it, and they obviously DM us, and they wait for the recording to come out. So every time, and I kind of piss them off because they're like waiting for the recording, and they're like, guys, I'm not going to end it for you guys, and it goes on for another 10 hours, and they're waiting and waiting because they need to verify.
Right? Because they're very entitled. I mean, they have this 9 to 5.
No, but they need to verify as well. I'll give them credit. So what we do now is like we record it separately. We record it separately and send it out to them. But like the experiment of Twitter Spaces, even Elon said, like he's surprised by how it's going. The experiment is working. It could become a highlight of Twitter. And that's why I'm investing so much time and effort, and we have a whole team doing it.
And this is just
it seems to be going well.
Start, right? I mean, like as he said, he has to work the core functionality of Twitter, and that's what they're working on right now. That's the reason why we haven't seen too many new features yet, and that's all coming to Twitter Blue first, obviously. But we're going to see a lot of this, moving forward. Like 6 months from now, Twitter could look like a completely different place. It could have videos on it. It could have playlists, stuff that creators are just going to flock to because that's where their audience is anyway. Like, most people are not on YouTube 24/7. Maybe some people are, but most people are not, right? And imagine having direct, coordination with your creators. You're telling them, "Hey, go make this," and they go and create something. Say they're musicians, for instance, they will do that, and doing it live on a space. I mean, that's the future, for creation.
Yeah,
and imagine that. Go ahead, Steve.
Ian, don't you guys remember? This is hardly the first time that critics of Elon have claimed doom and gloom over his business style and business practices.
Right. You got no experience building a spacecraft. What are you doing? It's like, well, the foundation's already there. It's just a matter of commercializing it. And sure enough, he's the number one right now.
And Ian, I'm sure you remember when Elon first went on Joe Rogan and smoked a doobie on there. Tesla stock did go down for a couple days temporarily, and then we had all the business journals come out and say Tesla's done. We need new leadership. This guy's out of control. This isn't professional, et cetera, et cetera. Well, look, and Tesla went on to ascend to all-time highs, repeatedly since then. So,
Look what happened to Apple when they kicked out Steve Jobs. That is not a good idea. If they kick out Elon Musk, it's game over.
Pretty much.
But if this experiment by Elon works, I'd be fascinated to see if other social platforms follow suit, because then they'd be under pressure. If the experiment ends up being a success.
And it's a good thing, right? Because he is showing that this experiment in free speech is going to work. And it's already working, despite the negative press, despite all that. Where are they complaining about it? They're complaining about it on Twitter, right? Of all places. They're not complaining about it on Mastodon or anywhere else. They're complaining about it on here because, as he said, shouting to the void, it's just hilarious. Nobody wants to do that. It's an empty room. It's pathetic. Think about it. Just a guy shouting into an empty space. That nobody wants that. They need an audience, and they're narcissists. Sorry for you guys in the audience who are narcissists. But yeah.
Grant, I think I see you jump in.
Yeah. Hey, great room, guys. Great job on what you guys are doing here. So
thank you.
It's curious to me, every time anybody asks an engineering question to him, he almost chuckled more tonight than he did 3 or 4 nights ago.
Mm-hmm.
And to where it's laughable. And I just wonder what that says about Jack.
It says that he wasn't running a tight ship, if anything.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it sounds to me like there's nothing here. There's nothing there.
It's very basic.
The platform has to be rebuilt.
Yeah, like I asked him about APIs, right? And he's like, he just laughed at that joke, and it's like, okay,
yeah, exactly.
It's clearly not ready for any of that, not yet. Yeah.
So we're moving a bunch of our ad dollars after I heard him on his plane. I don't know, I guess a week ago now.
Yep.
We started moving ad dollars off of Google and Facebook onto Twitter to support him and content. But it's almost like, are they even ready for content providers to bang away here?
Right.
And that's what I was hoping to ask you.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I mean, like, I advertise on Twitter, and it's like, it's kind of not worth it. It's better to do it on TikTok because it actually gives me options of who I want to target, what their demographics are. Twitter doesn't offer any of that. It's not very good. It's very random, right? So give it a few months, I would say. That's probably what they're building right now. I mean, it is what they're building right now. That's what you said. So yeah.
But spaces
Hey,
are free, and I will tell you, they are the best advertising. I mean, of any platform, I
For
would
now,
say
yeah.
this is where it's at. I mean, there's really better. And
It's
then
got a future.
to have a chance of Elon Musk showing up into your space, which he's been in a few of Mario's now. He's come to one of my spaces. I mean, it's just going to keep going. And like Ian said, he's going to continue to use this platform to grow this platform. And it makes sense. Why go do interviews with the media who is just constantly bashing you? Why go give them views and clicks when you can just come here to the people who support you
It's
and
the
your
perfect middle
platform?
finger. I love it. Yeah, it's the perfect middle finger to the media.
Mario, did anybody notice that he
My
zipped
only
up his pants? Did y'all
He's
hear
what,
that?
sorry?
No.
He was getting dressed at the beginning.
He was.
In the last. He was getting dressed. You could hear his zipper pull up. Anybody?
Yeah.
I don't know what point.
Bro, but that's the thing. Like Grant, when I did the space for just for everyone listening, if I did the space for 15 hours hosting it,
$100 billion zipper, man.
but that's the thing. Like when you do those spaces, no one has any idea what you're doing in the background. Like some cases, you don't want to know what I'm doing in the background when I'm hosting some of these spaces.
I'm eating a snack. You know, I'm eating a snack.
You're innocent, bro.
No.
Hey, Alex.
Yeah, I was gonna say, as one of like the main people that are hosting these, for a suggestion to Elon.
No, you dropped out.
Yo, can you hear me?
Go ahead. Sorry, Alex.
Yeah,
go ahead. Yeah, say it again.
I was gonna say, how would you feel as a suggestion to increase the stage size? I know there's the worry about overcrowding, but so I obviously hosted my first space last night, and we were getting so many like big name people in the space that we would like have to, boot like higher named people out. Like we had like Carrie Lakin, Seb Gorka was in, and we're like, we're so sorry, but we have to boot you out for like another person that just joined. What would you feel?
I would say, I'll tell you. Yeah. I go through this all the time, as you can guess. I'll tell you, first, don't say boot. When you tell them, say, hey guys, we're rotating the panel. And I do this all the time. I DM people, we're rotating the panel. And then when someone spoke already, I bring them down, or when the discussion is just not too relevant. And they're generally pretty understanding, but you have to have a team in the background. So I have a team of 6 every time I'm doing a space. Like right now, I have a team of 6, some checking breaking news, some DM. Very tricky.
It'll be funny. This particular space, we kept it small on purpose because we had a bunch of pointed questions all prepared, and we got to answer. I mean, we got to ask all of them, and that's great, right? I mean, these guys are very busy people, so we didn't want to just bring everybody up and have a long ass conversation that met nowhere. Right? We had some.
But like, and like tomorrow's space about COVID's gonna be a fucking bitch. I don't know how I'm gonna moderate the panel, who I'm gonna bring up. It's gonna be tough. Like when you do
who's gonna be your speakers, Mario, tomorrow?
So we have a list of speakers because we're gonna do multiple panels as we go through the Fauci files. We're trying to bring Fauci himself, but we have a list of speakers with all different theories. Tomorrow, I think we have Dr. Drew, and we have another doctor from the board at Pfizer, because they're going to disagree on a lot of points.
If you want to make it really interesting, you've got to have McCullough and Malone now that they're back on Twitter.
Yeah. So we're reaching. I'd love an intro. Anyone that could do these introductions. My team could already.
Do that. I'll do that.
That would be great.
You.
Yeah,
appreciate
perfect,
that.
Sebastian. Because we may be already in contact. So we're trying to bring a lot of the doctors or medical professionals that were suspended on Twitter initially, trying to bring them onto the space now that they're getting unbanned one after the other. But yeah, any introductions by you, Sebastian, or anyone else will be greatly appreciated to make sure we get all sides of every theory, every story. Brian, go ahead, man.
Yeah. Elon, his career since he was with PayPal back in the early 2000s. And listening to Elon, I don't at all doubt his intentions to try and make Twitter better and more fair and even more unifying. I also don't dispute his right for speaking his mind, even the controversial stuff that I probably disagree with more than a lot of you in here. But I just question, like, is it best for him to post controversial stuff, even if he is posting things leaning towards the left that was controversial. Is that the best way to create a platform that everybody wants to use and everybody wants to engage with? That's the only question I have. Anything else? I think
I'll take that one, Brian. I'm going to be
Yeah.
more objective about it, or more in the middle.
Sure.
I have no idea. Like, we're gonna find out, because there's an argument for that, and Mark had recently made that point. It's like, hey, at least he's being transparent. At least we're getting his thoughts, which is like the opposite of many others that are keeping things to themselves, and we don't like that either. And now, is it better to be somewhere in the middle? Because obviously, Elon is too transparent in some ways, or is full transparency the best solution? Which
I think it's the best idea. I love it.
I'm leaning in that direction as well, but I would say it is an experiment, and I think Mark made that point.
It's scary for really successful people, because they're putting a lot on the line, and it shows that Elon is confident in the products, that he can speak like this, that he can speak openly. And this is the same, for Tesla, right? I mean, he was very open about his plans with the company. So I'm not too concerned about it personally.
Obvious question: who the hell decides what controversial is?
Exactly.
After 5 years of Russia collusion hoax and Hunter's laptop isn't real. Seriously, come on, who gets to decide that? Nobody.
Exactly.
I would argue. I would argue echo chambers are boring, and by them even banning Trump, they got rid of a lot of people who used to use Twitter very actively just to see the controversy. Even people who hated Trump came to Twitter to see what Trump was saying.
Mm-hmm.
So I would argue he's sort of almost taking a page out of that book, but it's just him. He's being himself 100%. And I don't think he should hide that. And I don't like the way that Jack and other previous CEOs of Twitter and social media companies just hide behind this curtain. And you have no idea what their thought process is. So you really don't know why you're getting suspended, why you're getting banned. And come to find out, they all have this very left-wing stance. So they're banning anyone who is conservative, which is so wrong. So to just be out in the open with it, and then also say, I'm not banning people with a different perspective or different view, but this is how I feel. I think it's really effective, and I think it's bringing people to Twitter in droves. I mean, my follow count has almost doubled since Elon Musk took over a month and a half ago. It's insane.
It's like what Mark said earlier, right? When he talked about this book, The Image, he said that, prior to now, really, people would hold press events and they're all fake, right? Everybody knows it's fake. Everybody knows that the conversations are are happening in these smoke-filled rooms, so to speak, right? And that nothing that they say in public is real. It makes people very, cynical, and that is something we have to move away from. We have to move towards sincerity. We have to move towards honesty and truth, because this idea that people just lie and everybody lies, it's just, I mean, look at what it's done to society. And that it's large, society is damaged the way it is. It's messed up the way it is, because people have not been honest. I mean, the politicians, when they make promises on the campaign trail, how many of them, even fulfill their obligations to their constituents? None of them do, right? Very few of them actually do. So this openness, this, like, what I say is what I'm going to do, and this is Elon's way of dealing as a CEO. It's really refreshing, and I hope more people do it as well, because I'm done with this whole image, this whole, we only do things for the sake of optics. Because how can you trust anyone or anything or any institution when people just lie all the time, right? We have to bring.
He said he's not towing the line anymore, right, Ian? That's exactly what he said in Mario's other space. He's been towing the line. And when you can't be bought and they don't have dirt on you, you aren't forced to tow the line.
And the way that Elon is bringing trust back to the space is by being honest. It's by saying what's on his mind. Like, as Mark said, this is his leadership style. Everything he says on Twitter is what he'll say in real life to you, to your face, right? So he's bringing that sense of trust back to Twitter. It's making people trust the platform, more than they trust the media. Because I mean, trust in the media is at an all-time low, and that's for obvious reasons. They've lied to us about the Biden laptop. They've lied to us about the Russian collusion and so many other things. Right? They're lying to us about literally everything. So this is, I feel like this is like a new era, personally, because it shows that people can be open and they can be honest and they can be completely transparent of what they're saying. And if you lie in the future, maybe that will be the outlier. Not to make a pun. That'll be the outlier.
I don't doubt that at all. I guess my question was, like, is it the best business strategy to
in the short
alienate.
term, maybe not,
You
but
know?
in the long term, I would say, yeah, it is. It's a new business strategy. It's
Yeah,
one that has
I
not
guess
been tried.
we'll see, right?
Alex?
Yeah, to your point, I would say that like maybe it's controversial for some business wise, but in the grand scheme of things, I'd rather have someone be open, you know where they stand, and they let everyone else speak their mind, rather than someone where you don't know where they're standing and then they censor all opposing views regardless, because that's
It
more
seems,
of a
yeah. I
dividing
think the full. I agree. The full transparency approach, I think, will prevail, and the experiment, in my opinion, is going well so far. I know there's a few hiccups here and there, but I'm enjoying it. It's definitely beating my expectations. I'm just gonna tell everyone tomorrow will be the crazy COVID debate. So hopefully I don't fuck it up with another shit show, and it goes well, because it's a very tricky
Fauci doesn't
subject.
leave, you know.
Fauci, we didn't get Fauci yet. We didn't get Fauci.
But if we do get him,
Hopefully we get him. That'll be sick.
Mario.
Surrounded by PR people for sure.
I have a contact I can pass on to Mario.
Anyone that can, anyone in the audience, anyone in the panel, anyone that knows anybody that would be good to bring on the panel. You know, you guys have already helped us a lot. That's why we're bringing all these speakers. But DM me, my team will look at it. I can connect with you personally. In this case, we already have more than enough doctors. The main person we want is Fauci or a similar person in other countries, people that make these decisions or at least advise the president on such decisions. So Fauci and others like him. You know, Fauci's the US, there's others in Europe, etc. So yeah, Alex or Alex. I called you Alex before because we had another Alex. That's why I said Alex. But yeah, Alex, would be great to have that introduction. It goes to everybody in the audience, and everyone in the audience, pin tweet above. Set your reminders. It's going to be a 6 space tomorrow. And also the newsletter on top of my profile. We're going to kick it off again and sending like an overview of all the spaces we do every week, because there's just so much information and so many things going on. So we're going to start doing that in a week or so. So make sure you subscribe to that newsletter. We'll see you all tomorrow. And then on Thursday, we're doing the crypto space, going through what happened with Sam, what's happening with Binance. And then on Friday, I guess, Ian, is the next drop, the Fauci files. Do you know when it's going to start? Is it Friday?
No
or we don't know yet?
No, we don't know yet. I
hope not, man. I need a break. But if it is the weekend, we'll see you all for the Fauci files. And anyone listening, whenever there's breaking news, that's when we'll be doing the space, when there's news that matters. And we have a 24/7 team that's watching it, and we immediately get the right panelists to have an open debate. But otherwise, sick conversations. Thanks to Alex V who dropped off, Ian, Tara, Stephen, Brian, Alex, and Sebastian. It was a great chat with Mark, and I'm glad Elon managed to make it. I feel a bit bad. Elon told me he only has 10 minutes, but I didn't see his message. And I just kept, I didn't see the message. I didn't really see his reply. I saw him pop in. And I'm like, fuck. And I'm used to him. Last time he was here for like an hour and a half, 2 hours. So I'm like, I'm going to drag this on forever. And I didn't know he has 10 minutes. But yeah, it was sick. Guys, I'll see you all tomorrow. Set your reminders. And anyone that can bring us some great panelists, especially Fauci, please do DM. It'll be great. It'll be a 6-6 space with Fauci. Love you all.